Hello everyone, welcome to the Microsoft Azure Developer Community session. This is the session around Microsoft Azure and working with APIs. APIs stand for Application Programming Interfaces and how you can just build and scale your applications using multiple APIs and using, how you can just deploy your applications, how you can just facilitate or use these Microsoft Azure services that Microsoft offers you and how you can just take the best out of it, and obviously how what are the best practices you should follow while working with Azure services and with APIs as well. So we have our expert speaker, Bhagavi ma'am, with us. She is an Microsoft certified trainer. She has been doing a really great work. She is a senior software engineer and she has been really contributing in a continuous manner with Azure developer community. I welcome you to this stage, ma'am, and the stage is all yours, ma'am.
Thank you, Lakshit, for the brief introduction of mine. And yeah, with that, let me start with today's presentation.
Sure. And until my ma'am is sharing her screen, I just wanted to quickly drop the Discord server link. So by joining this link, you can just get an access to our exclusive Discord server where you can just engage with the community. Multiple industrial folks are there who can just help you out if you are having any query related to Azure or maybe some certifications or whatnot. So you can just give me a heads up whenever you join, guys. And yeah, the screen is perfect, man. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Hi, all. Thanks for joining today's session. Let me give a brief introduction of myself and get started with today's session. I'm an MTech graduate from BITS Pilani and also a Microsoft certified trainer. And I do have experience in RPA, which is of Azure UiPath and Pega. And I am also a Microsoft certified data scientist. And as Lakshit said, I do contribute to Azure developer community in by delivering some of the sessions. And this is my LinkedIn ID. Feel free to get in touch with me. And without wasting much time, let's start with today's session, which is all about how do we manage the API and how do we develop an API inside Azure and how do we actually use the API which was created under the Azure and inside the local code that what we are having, and then we will be seeing what are the different gateways that are available, and then how do we make it secure, and how do we have a how do we create a backend for an API, and how do we consume it. Yeah. um before we s- before we get into API apps is something which is available under Azure. Before we get into that, let me give an introduction of what is meant by API, and let's get started. API is something like something like which will be readily available, and wherein you can create it, where you will be publishing it somewhere, and you can use it under the code in just one or two lines of code, and make the API being consumed, and that can be from cloud or from the on premises. So this will be the use that what we actually have for the API apps in Azure as well. Like we can easily develop, host, and consume the APIs in the cloud, as well as we can develop it on premises and make it useful. And with the use of API apps, what you can do is like you can have a good security, and you can have simple access control, and you will be able to have the SDK generation and seamless integration with the logic apps is another apps that is available in the Azure, where you will be able to create apps, right? So all these things are all related to Azure. And with that, In Azure, you do have the APIs which are being created. uh, some are created by Azure itself as default, and let me quote an example like Phase API is one of the APIs that is available, where you can readily go and create a resource for it. And if you create a resource, you will get the key, and you will get the base URL. With that, you will be able to use the base URL and the key. With key is something which is used for accessing the base URL, right? So uh, that both will be available, and you can go ahead and use it. And with that, we will be having the yeah with that, you can integrate it with C sharp or Java or PHP or Node.js, whatever kind of the um, languages that it can be. You can integrate it with that, and you will be able to work with that. And we do have some other feature, like it will be a kind of easy consumption, like the integrated support for the Swagger API will be much easier than the uh, others, right? So uh, we will also have simple access control, where we will be able to protect the API from being anonymously being accessed. And we will not be able to have the changes that has been accessed under it. So all these things are the key features that are available for the app. And we will be able to integrate the API that has been available with the Visual Studio, or you can integrate it with the Logic apps, or you can integrate it with the web apps that is available. So you can also have it under the functions, and you can also have it under open API that is available. So all these are some of the features that is available for the API apps that are available under the Azure. And when we get into the next part, which is API management system, let me come back to the slide a bit later. And before that, let me give a introduction of what is API management service, and then let's get back to that slide to make you guys understand better. um what we would be what we would be seeing under the API management services, like API management is something which provides the core functions to ensure successful API program through the developer or business, by providing analysis, security, and protection. And each API will have one or more operations in it, and you will be able to have a different kind of policies as well being built in it. And when we go when we look at what is meant by policy are a powerful capability of API management that allows the publisher to change the behavior of the API through the different kind of configurations. And policies are like a collection of statement that are executed sequentially on the request of the API response. And like we will be having different components that are available under the API management service as well. When you have to create when you have to manage the API inside Azure, then you will be having these different kind of components that are available. One is API gateway, and other one is Azure portal, and the next one is developer portal. uh, developers are developers are the user accounts that are available in the API management service instance, where the developers can create, uh, or they can invite the administrator to join, or they can also sign up for the developer portal. So the developer portal is where the developers can learn about your API, view, uh, or or they can call the operations and subscribe to the products, where the developers can you can also customize the look and feel of the developer portal by adding the custom content, or you can also have your own branding to it. And when it comes for, yeah, let me get back to the slide. The three things that what we saw here, right? One is API gateway, Azure portal, and developer portal. This is how it would actually look like. App developer, when it comes for an app developer or apps or publisher, they will be going into all these phases, and then they will check for whether the backend services that are available through the VPN or the direct service. So and if there are any services that are available, then it would be calling it back and giving it back to the app developer or apps or publisher. So this is how it would work. And now let's see in brief of all these terms, like gateway or developer portal. We were seeing about the developer portal, right? So let's continue with that. developer portal um, Developer portal serves the main web presence for the developer, where they can read the API documentation, or they can try out the API via the interactive console. And the publisher portal is something where it resides here, right? And nowadays, since Azure API has been API management system has changed. You don't want a separate publisher portal right now, wherein the API publisher can directly publish it without the publisher portal. But we have something built in inside the Azure itself. So I do want to cover it as part of the Azure portal as well. So the publisher portal is something like where you will be defining or importing the API scheme, and you will also get insights from the analytics, and you will be able to manage the users here. And API gateway is something like where, sorry, API gateway is something like where it acts like the heart of the API management system, where it accepts the calls and routes them back to your backends, like I said. And it also verifies the API keys. Like if you had given any kind of security, then it would be the one where it would be looking in. And if you have any kind of certificates or credentials, then it would be the one which would be checking it. And it would also enforces the usage quotas and rate limits. Like if you had set up some kind of the rate limits, then this would be the one which should be managing it. And then you can have the caches backend response, where it has been set up. And it will log the call for the metadata for analytics purposes. So these all are the different kind of the things that are available under the API management system. And when it comes for, yeah, when it comes for policy, yeah, policies, like what we saw earlier, we do have a different kind of policies, right from the conversion of XML to JSON, right? So all these things are also covered under the gateway. So kind of more secure than the other tools that are available. And now let's discover more something that are available. um, Products are, we saw different terms over there, right? So all those terms are being listed under here, like products, groups, developer policies, and developer portal are some things which are being referred, which are being referred often inside the Azure. um, Products are how API are being surfaced to developers, and groups are how the visibility of the products to the developers are being managed, and developer is something which we saw earlier itself in deep, and policies is also something which we saw in deep earlier. Developer portal is where something I was explaining a bit back. And now let's get back to what is API gateway. Like what we saw, a gateway is something like it will be sitting between the client and the service. If you have the client apps over here, like described in the diagram, you will be having the client apps here, right? And you will have some kind of the policies being applied to it, where before the API gateway, and if all the things are okay, then it would be checking for the service A or service B based on the policy that it had been looking for, and it would be routing it for those things. And what we would be doing as well is that we would be authenticating it inside the API gateway. And for the authentication, what we would be doing is like we would be providing the identity provider, and once all these things are being done, then we would be giving the response back by response caching, and we will also be noting the logs that are that what the API gateway has did. So API gateway is something which will be doing all these kind of the different tasks that is been available. And API, yeah, it will also perform some kind of the task like authentication, SSL termination, and rate limiting. And um, the second one that what we can see about the API gateway is like when we are deploying an API inside Azure without the gateway, we will have um, we will have a complex client code, and we will be coupling between the client and the backend. And we will also have an operation that may need to call the multiple services. What happens when we put in the gateway is like uh, the multiple services is not being called. So based on whatever the kind of authentication and kind of the description that what you have given for gateway, then that would be taking the action, and would be proceeding it for it. And what it would be doing is like it would be having an public facing service where it would be dealing about. And we will be having something called as gateway routing, gateway aggregation, and offloading, where routing is like you will be having a gateway as a reverse proxy to route requests to one or more backend services. And aggregation is like you will be aggregating multiple individual requests into a single request. And offloading is like you will be having the functionality from the from the individual service to the gateway, particularly cross-cutting concerns. And when we go for API management policies, what we would be doing is like what we would be seeing is the role of the policies and the policy configuration. And inside the role of policy, why do we can think why do we need policies, right? So policies are something which will be allowing the publisher to change the behavior of the API through the configuration setup that it has undergone. And it will be having the gateway. It is being applied as a gateway between the consumer and the API. Also, it will have the inbound request as well as the outbound responses that it has to look at. And uh, yeah, when you have to, let's see an example. Before that, let me give how the policies can be defined in terms of uh, coding. So policies are something which will start with policies here, and inside that you can give the different kind of the policy that what you can actually do, and you can change this inside Azure very easily with just a, these codings are backend, right? So all these things can be done with the simple typing over there, or simple selection of the yes or no button over there. And uh yeah, how the API management policy is being done is like, we will have something called as control flow, forward request, limit concurrency, um, and the events will be logged in to the event hub. And we can have the mock response, and if something goes wrong, then we might have retry as well. Like control flow is based on the evaluation result of the boolean expression, where we would be applying conditions on it. And if the condition satisfies, then the control flow will be flowing over it. Why do we need all these things? Is like, uh, we we will not be making access to the API so easily, and we will be having all these responses being provided. And with that, it would be it would be checking for the decision whether uh, it has to decide on whether the the request API has been given back or not. And forward request is something like the backend service that is available, right? So whether it has to forward the request or not. And limit concurrency is like, um, each will have each will have policies being applied to it. And while doing our example, let me show you what is concurrency over there. And the the difference between the concurrency is like, for few, Azure with itself will show something like it is limited to 20 concurrency, meaning you will not be able to create more than 20 policies at the same time. So it is the kind of, and if it's for basic, then that would be different, and based on the plan that you select for, the concurrency would be differing on. And log to event hub is something like, it would be the one which would be making the logs. And whether if it's a true or false, it would be making a log and it would be storing it. And mock response is like, a simulated response where it would be giving, and without any pipeline execution, it would be giving directly to the caller. And retry is something like, when the condition is actually met for the policy statement, until then it would be retrying. So all these are uh, di- different kind of the API policies for the API management that has been available. And we can have few examples like how do we create the policies. Like, you will have a different kind of uh, all these things will be listed under the code itself. Like you will have limit concurrency, or all these are XML or JSON format, right? So they will be available over here, and you can change it for your convenience at any time that has been available. And uh, yeah, before this, let's stop here and let's get back to some kind of the coding that was done for Azure API apps, which is like the API which I had told, right? Azure itself will be providing by itself, and wherein we can consume the APIs with just creation of subscription key, and with the endpoint alone, and you can integrate it with the C sharp or any kind of the language that what you actually want. So this is one kind of scenario where we had used the face recognition API that has been available, which is face API. And with that, what we had actually given here is, when you type in face API, the first thing that what you actually want to do here is like go to home and click on a resource, and you have to create a resource for it. So these APIs are something which are available inside the cognitive services. So under that, what you would be doing is like you would be creating a API for it, and you need a subscription and a resource group for almost all the resources that what you are actually planning to get off. And you when you give the subscription, then what it would be doing is like you have to give the details as well. I'm just giving the details as in code here, since I had already created it. This would be the part of the instance it that it needs. So I'm just giving it over here, and I am selecting yeah, since I had already created it, and I had already used it, so it is not allowing me to use. I'm just giving the this name and getting it used. Yeah, I am selecting. There are different kind of the price tier that are available, like how many calls that you are making for per month, like or how do we call, depends on here. So if you are just learning, or if you are just new to Azure, then free is something which is necessary, which would suffice for now, and you can use it. And standard is something like where you can use it when you go ahead and use some kind of the experiments, like experiments or bigger projects. And with that, I'm clicking on here, and clicking on review and create. it would be creating the it would be creating the API for me and making it ready for me. And once this is all done, what it would be doing is, what you can actually do is, let the deployment complete. Let me show you how it would how it would react. Meanwhile, let's go back to the code and see how we had used it. And this is a C sharp code. What uh, this is a C sharp code. What we have did here is like we had used the subscription key, and subscription key actually differs when you create it for the second time. And let me show you once the deployment is over, and it may take a while to complete. So meanwhile, let me complete it here, and let's get back to there. And what you need is a endpoint, and if there are any kind of key that is available, then you would be specifying it here. If there are no keys, then you will not be specifying it here. Keys are something which is like authentication, right? So when the key gets deferred, then you have to come back here and change it. So you will be calling the, and these all are some kind of the coding that what I had did, basically to uh, this project is basically to find out the baby's face or girl's face or boy's face, and it has to move over there and find the age of it and define it. So we are defining, uh, we are defining on what to give over there, and when you hover on the mouse, it would be giving all these details like what I said right now. And it would also be deducting the faces count. And let me not go back, let me not get into deeper of what the code does. And since I am just making you to try understand how do we use API alone. So this is how you call the API inside here, and with that you will be calling the components as well here, and making it work. So now let's get back to this one and see. So the API has been done, and when you go to it, what you can see here is like this is the endpoint that what we had created, right? So this is something that it has created. And when you click on the manage keys, it would be showing on two keys. I am not showing the keys right now, since it can create a problem for me until I delete it, because if you start using the endpoint and keys, then I will not be able to find out, until I delete, right? So I'm not clicking on to it, but you can copy it to your uh, clipboard and start using it. So also what you can do is like you can tag on which part that uh, that that this API falls under, and you will be able to get all these things. And once you had done with all these things, you can copy this and put it over here, and you can also copy the keys and copy any one of the keys. There will be two keys available for any kind of the API that Azure builds in by itself. That is for a safety purpose. If something does not go well, then you can go ahead and use with the second key. Uh, so there will be two keys available, and you can use any one of it. And yeah, with that you will be able to use or integrate with the any kind of coding that what you actually do. And second one is something like uh, what we were seeing, right? API management service. API management service is what we were seeing, and I had created the API for demo purpose. And when you type in API management, you will be able to get the API management services. And inside that, if you click on the if you click on create, you will be able to create the API management gateway. And with that, specifying the resource group as well as specifying the resource name and administrator email which is on which organization, depending on your organization's administrator. If you give all these details over here, and the workspace is something like organization name, and if you specify all these things, and this is where something I was talking about earlier, right? We will be having the policies based on the pricing tier. You will be able to uh, have the have the policies that is being created will be limited. So when you create on consumption, you will be able to create just 20 consumptions, and when you click on basic, you will be having a different one, and based on the pricing tier, you will be having the difference on it. And I am just giving a sorry I am just giving a review and create on it. It Since I had already created, I'm not going back. Instead, I will let you know what needs to be done alone, and open the resource that was earlier created, since it would take around 20 to 30 minutes for creation itself, and I don't want to waste the time over there, since the time has been limited. And what else what else that what we can look for here is like, this is something that what we look in basic. And for monitoring, if you want the insight, meaning if you want how your application works, all these things being monitored, then what you can do is like, you can click on here, and when you click on here, you will be able to select the application inside instance, or if not, you can type in over here, and it will tell something like create by itself, and it's not showing for me right now. And you can create, or you can create it in a different way, like what we do for API management service. When you type in application inside instance, you will be able to create a instance by yourself, and you can select the resource over here. And then what you can do is like, you can scale the API that what you are actually going to use. When you want to like, this specifies how many users can be able to use it, or how do you manage the additional cost that is being available. So you will be able to select how many users uh, that has been available. And then if you have some kind of identity that is being specified, so you will be clicking on the status here. And then virtual network is something like, where do you want to publish it, whether onto the virtual network or to the private endpoint. And if it's for private endpoint, how do you want it to be like, how do you want your network subscription to be like you have to specify all these details, subnet, and all these different kind of things. And once that is all done, you can define the security over here, like whether it should be of what kind of the protocol that what you want to follow, like a TLS or SSL, or kind of HTTP. So you can select it over here. And tags is something what I told, right? You can give a name here, and you can map it over here. So when you map it, when you search for this value, you will be getting this API name. That's the usage of tag. And once this is all done, you will be reviewing it and installing it. And I'm just getting back and opening the old one, which is the one which I had created earlier. And never worry that you had created it, and you had created it, but you had created it wrong. So what you can do here is like when you click on the when you click on the resource that what you had created, right? So what you will be able to do is you will be able to edit it. Like when you click on this one, what it would do is it would it would be it would allow you to move, it would allow you to edit some of the information that what you had you what you can edit. So and then you can also have some kind of the properties that has been available, like uh, your your pricing tier, or how your subscription has to be, all these things. And the first thing that what you would be doing is you would be connecting an API to it. And that would be available under the API that what we had actually created. So we do have the API that has been created already, but I will let you know how you can create. Like you can have a different kind of the API that has been available, like whether it can be Open API or WSDL, or it can be of any sort. And I'm just clicking on Open API for now. And how your and this is where you have to specify your base URL. And with this, your base URL will be defined. And if you had clicked on somewhere, like if you had, this is something which just a second. Yeah, this is something where the Microsoft by itself had created a conference API for us, and it will have few kind of the details inside it, like it will have schema, security, path, you base URL, and everything, and different kind of the responses that it gives, like whether the response is okay, or um, this is something like what Azure has created for us for some kind of demo purposes. So like it is a bigger API, and these are the parameters that are available under it. And you can get responses like 200 or a error. So this is an and this is an API that is created, right? So I am using the same API over here. And if it's not been published, or if it's not been done, then what you can do here is like you can select a JSON format over here, and it would be able to do and you will be able to use it. And how your API has to look like, and what name it has to do, and which it has to follow up. So all these things will be listed over here, and you can create it. And this is the same thing that what I had did here. So what I am doing right now is like I am minimizing it to make you guys understand better. Just a second. Okay, I am unable to do it. Yeah. What it would be doing is like we will be we will be getting all the operations that has been available over here. Like whatever the things that are being done inside the API, you will be able to get it. And when you click on something, then you will be getting the responses over here. This is just for checking purpose, and if you want to get it used, then you can go ahead and use the base URL, and also the keys, and you can use it under the languages as well, like C sharp or Python. And yeah, this is response. So what it would be doing is, this is front end. It would be declaring whether it works or not. And you are giving a name over here and you are passing it. I'm just telling for an example. And policy, inbound processing, outbound processing is something which is output. Inbound processing is something which is from the front end. You would be looking for the inbound processing. Inbound processing is something which would be having the policy. Outbound policy is also where we will be having policy. And policy as the most one. Inbound and outbound are the ones which will have policy in it. And backend also has policies to it, but mostly we will not be applying the policy at backend. And can you reimagine the same picture that what we saw at the first slide? Like, we saw the applications over there, right? So that is the front end. And inbound processing is something where the gateway and all the three different kind of components that is available is something which is inbound policy, inbound processing. And backend is something where okay, let me go back to the same slide and make you compare. Yeah, this is the same slide where this comes as front end, and this comes as the inbound processing, which is this one. And backend is something where you will be having the backend services over here. And then what it would be doing is, if there are any services that are available, it would come back to the outbound processing, which is to the same thing over here. And uh, um, and then it would go back to the front end, which is here. So inbound and outbound are the one which will have gateway in it, right? So gateway is the one where we will be applying the policies. That's why we do have policies under inbound and outbound. And um and then what we would be what we can do is, like, when you want to test something, you can give query parameters over here and type in the value over here, and it would be checking on the result whether the this would be the request URL and this would be the HTTP URL, where you can get it and make it use in your own code as well. So it would be giving a response of whether it's a 200 or error. And then logging is something which we saw, right? Since we haven't run anything, it hadn't logged in anything here. And yeah, revisions is something which, when it's been created and when it's been changed, all these things. And then what you can do is, like, you can export it as well in form of JSON, or you can export it in the form of yeah, you can import it as well when you want to when you want to add in something. You can add in over here. And then you can clone it as well. And what else can you do is, like, you can go back, and when you want to use this, you can use the same details that has been available, like keys and base URL. The one which we saw is the base URL, and from that, this is the base URL, right? So you will be able to get this. And I had not given any keys over here, so it has not been I'm not able to edit it. And yeah, this is something which is available in JSON format. This is something that what I had captured from here and put in under the screenshots of the slides. And from here as well, you can change the value. Like, I had not given any kind of the key over here, it's null. And we will not be having any kind of the key for it. And if you want some kind of the key, then you can go ahead and use. And this is all I had for the demo purpose. And let me get back to the slide. We just have few more things that has been available, I guess. Yeah, it's the same thing that what we, yeah, it's about securing the API with certificate. How do we secure the API? Until here we had covered. Coming back, let's now see how do we secure the API using the subscription. When like what we saw in the demo, how do we secure is like, we will be giving the subscription key scope. Sorry, with the subscription key scope, what we can do is like, we can check whether it can access all API, or it can have the single API, or how does the product want to look like. So all these things are being managed under the subscriptions free scope itself. And then with that, what you can do here, how do you make it as like, uh, you must include key in every request. Something that what we saw in our demo does not have key, right? So you should specify a key. In the first one, we had key. In the first demo that what we saw, we had key, and we were able to use it. But in the second demo, that what we had created inside the API management, we never had a key. So if we don't have a key, anybody can anybody can access it for with the subscription level access. And you will be put into trouble on how on if there are any changes or something. So that's the reason we do use keys. And that can be primary and the secondary key as well, like it's been mentioned here. And you can have keys, both keys available. And then what you can have is like, we how do we call an API with the subscription key is like, there is something called as request header, which is being available under the subscription itself. And with that, we will be having the how do we call it. So this is something like OCP APIM subscription key. With that, you will be able to call the subscription that has been available. And now you can ask me, where do you call? So request URL is something where you are requesting, right? And this is the same thing that what we saw in our C sharp code. So um, with the C sharp code, what you can do is like, you can give this as your base URL, and you can give this as your subscription. So it would be giving a response back to you. And another way is like, you can transport layer security client authentication, can be provided to it, which is, you will provide a certificate authority, which will allow only certificate signed by the particular CA, which is certificate authority. And uh, all these different kind of terms like thumbprint, subject, expiration date, all these things will be available under the transport layer security client authentication, wherein you can check in the box that is available. If you had checked in, then you 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 will be able to opt it. And we do have two methods which is to verify the certificate. Like you can check who issued the certificate, or if it's issued by the partner, and you can check whether it had came from them or not. And this is how you can secure your APIs as well. And and then what you can do is like you can accept the client certificates, which is like they are clicking when you see in here, right? um they are clicking on the API that what we had created, and then what they are doing is like they are clicking on to the inbound processing with the policies over there, and with there you will be able to edit the policy that has been available over there, and add in the policy that what you actually want to get in. Let me finish off here and show that quickly. And then what this is something which has been available when you want to change it, in the JSON format. And then these are some kind of examples, and this is the thing that what we actually did. What we did is we logged in into Azure, and we created an API management instance with the API management service, and then we imported a backend API from the conference API that has been readily available by the Azure itself, and we configured the backend settings and we tested it as well. And the cleaning is alone left, which I would be doing it later. Yeah. Face recognition is something that what we saw as well. And now let me get back and show you how did the API work. I mean, how, yeah, this is where we had, right? So when you click on this policy, this is where you will be able to select the policies as well. Like you can select the policy, you can give the policy over here based on your commands, or inbound or outbound, whatever it may be, you can give in the policy over here. So I'm done with my slides and presentation. Thank you. And if there are any questions, you can reach out to me in LinkedIn, or you can ask me now. And again, this is my LinkedIn ID. So if you have any queries as well, so please reach out here, since we are already running up late. If there are any queries right now, I would be able to solve it.
So Abhinav has mentioned, like, can you please the last part, like the one that you have mentioned the last slide?
Last slide.
Yeah.
This slide. This is the same thing that what we actually did in our demo. Like what we had logged in, and then we created an API management, and we imported a API from the conference API, and then we configured the backend settings, and then we tested it. And the cleaning up process is alone pending. Cleaning up process is simple, where you can just go ahead and delete the resources which are available, which I can actually do right now as well. Like you can select it, and you can delete it. It is not a problem at all. Yeah, you will be able to delete it, and you should give the service name to proceed, where you will be giving the AZ def demo, whatever name that what we actually gave, and then delete it. And once we give the delete, it would be deleted off. That's it. So was this the piece that what you were looking for?
Yeah, so
Did I
the
answer your question? Yeah.
yeah, ma'am, he says he is clear now. So
Okay.
when we have one more question, please, how do you use API to send data to Power BI?
Okay. Power BI. Okay. I deleted off the resource, but what what you can actually do is like, uh, when you delete on the resource, right? When you click on the API, click on, when you create it, you will be having an option to connect the resource to Power Automate, at the down of it. And when you click onto it, you will be able to connect the resource, and you can use that and get it connected.
Yeah, perfect. I hope that answers your question. And if in case if anyone has any other question, guys, please let us know in the comment section. So we'd be very happy to answer. And otherwise, I have just shared one Google form link in the comment section. You can just check this out, and maybe this is kind of a feedback or kind of attendance form. So we would be very happy to hear from you, like how you find this session insightful or not, and what we can improve, how we can improve. So you can just drop your queries, or if you have any queries you have. Okay, just give me a second. Maybe you should try now, Abhinav. Can you access it now? Guys, please let me know. I hope you guys would be able to access it now. So we have added the access. You guys can fill the feedback. Also, I have shared the, yeah, I have also shared the LinkedIn profile of Bhargavi ma'am. So if in case you have any doubt or inquiry, she has been doing incredible in the community. She regularly organizes all these sessions. So you can just join us for, you ask her any doubt, any query you have related to Azure. Also, I have also posted LinkedIn post over here for this session. So what you can do is you can just comment down your what you have learned, like your learnings from the Azure session, from today's session, whatsoever you have learned. You can just pin the comment over there in the LinkedIn, and we would be very happy to see. And we have some giveaways as well. So the best comment will be getting some Azure swags. So I'm looking forward to some more amazing comments, like whatsoever you guys have learned from this session. Just paste your comments over there in the LinkedIn post comment section, and we happy to sip you some, some happiness to your doorstep. So that's it from my side, ma'am. Anything you have at last to say to the community?
No, thank you for attending today's session, and looking forward for many more sessions to come.
Yeah, and thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your kind pleasure. I'm very, it's my pleasure to host you always. And thank you guys. Thank you for joining in. I hope you enjoyed the session. The session will be available on YouTube. If you guys have missed any part, you can just check out the part by rewinding it. So thank you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.